if everyone is fine with it. So this is a cross-border study program between the two universities, JKU Linz and University of South Bohemia. So I will just talk you through about the uniqueness of this program, what makes it a little bit different in comparison to the other chemistry, more oriented bachelor programs, what the students encounter during their studies, what are the typical lectures and the practicals, and of course, what are the possible job opportunities after graduating from this program, and what are the most typical frequent questions which we get from the students all the time. So a little bit more about the structure and the time schedule of the whole program. So it runs between the two universities. All of the students are full students of both universities at the same time. So they are registered both in Linz and at the same time for the whole study period also at the University of South Bohemia in Budweis, which is just 1 hour drive from Linz in the Czech Republic. The whole study was started in 2007. I myself studied it as well, actually in the first generation of the students, and the idea was to cover the demand after students who would be well known in the chemistry fields, but who would also orient themselves in the life sciences, so in the molecular biology and in the chemistry field, so kind of an interdisciplinary study in this area in the Upper Austria and South Bohemia. So the whole study takes 6 semesters. It is fully held in English language. A lot of the times we get questions from the students if it's really hard to study this kind of topic in English. I would say, even from our personal experience, it's actually vice versa much easier than to translate everything either from Czech or from German to the English, because nowadays in the science, most of the materials like study books or presentations or scientific papers are in English anyways. And if you start right away from the beginning to orient yourself in this kind of a world, then it's much easier to just continue. And of course, all of the lecturers are coming from either those two universities, or sometimes we have guest lecturers from abroad, but a vast majority of them are non-native speakers. So it is an English which is easy to follow for everyone. And we never in all those years had a student who had to quit the study just because of it being held in the English language. So towards the structure of the study plan. So first 2 semesters are spent in Linz at JKU, and the main focus is on all of the bases of the chemistry, like general, analytical, organic, inorganic chemistry, with a little bit of the basic fundamentals of mathematics and physics. Then the second years is spent at the University of South Bohemia in Budweis. So 2 semesters, and there the orientation is mainly on the biochemistry, but also molecular biology, genetics, and some fundamentals of biology. In the 5th semester, students come back to Linz. So just to make it clear, students are not actually, pendling between those 2 universities all the time. They really spend 1 year here and the 2nd year there, so they move. But for the 5th semester, they get back to the Linz, and they are then trained in more advanced chemistry, mainly physical and organic chemistry and synthesis, and a lot of practicals with a little bit of bioinformatics. And the last semester is much more free with concern to having lectures and the practicals, because they need to have some time to close both of their bachelor theses and to prepare for the final state examination, which only takes place at the University of South Bohemia. So that is a general pre-requirement to get a bachelor degree in the Czech Republic, to just pass a written exam, which is again in biochemistry, molecular biology, and an elective subject. So I already mentioned that students need to work out 2 bachelor theses, and they will be also rewarded with 2 full bachelor degrees. So Bachelor of Science from JKU and BC, which stands for the Czech word baccalaureate, which is the same equivalent for the University of South Bohemia. Now a little bit more to the bachelor thesis. The one which is in Budweis takes a little bit longer, because of course the topics are more biology or biochemistry or microbiology oriented, and there just the amount of the time which one needs to carry out some decent research is just much longer, because you are waiting for your organisms to grow and so on. So students typically start already during the third semester and then continue until the end of the second year. But that is easily manageable, because the load of the theoretical lectures and the practicals during the second year is slightly lower than during the first year. On the other hand, the chemically more oriented bachelor thesis in Linz is much faster. So usually we dedicate 5 to 6 weeks to that. And it is feasible to, for instance, carry out some decent synthesis during this time, or even have something more theoretical like bioinformatics and so on. So now I would like to give you more background about the other university, because I guess you won't hear about it very much during these open days, because we have only one cross-border program. So as mentioned, students will spend 50% of their study time at the University of South Bohemia. This is fairly new university. It was just 30 years old last year, and the campus is still evolving. So it has been matured and modernized within the past 5 years. The dormitories are located directly on the campus, which is a big advantage to the students, and they are also run by the university, so they are much more affordable than the private ones. The labs have been also newly established and equipped with the modernized devices and the equipment. So the whole faculty of science, which hosts our students, and this is also the faculty which provides all the lectures and the practicals, has their completely new building, again equipped with many practical labs, but also labs for the own research, which then students use for carrying out their bachelor thesis. And the main focus during the second year is really on biochemistry, molecular biology, genetics, microbiology. The big advantage to students is also very close cooperation between the Faculty of Science in Budweis with the Biology Center of the Czech Academy of Sciences, which is actually also located on the same campus. That means that one of the professors are coming from the Academy of Sciences and they are giving lectures to the students, but on the other hand, also they can pick some real research topic and just participate on a research work of some renowned group during their bachelor thesis. And this is mostly what happens for those students. So they may spend longer time in the lab, but not because they were being forced to, but because they really like the practical work so much. And that's, of course, also one of the ways how you learn the most out of the techniques. So this is a layout about all the different fields which students encounter during this bachelor study. So you can see that the main emphasis is really put on the biochemistry and chemistry, mainly analytical and organic chemistry, then also physical chemistry, with basis of mathematics and physics, which is a must in any kind of chemistry related study program. Then also accompanied by a little bit of biology, a little bit of inorganic chemistry, molecular biology, but then also some chunk of time takes to work out those 2 bachelor theses, prepare for the final written exam, a little bit of bioinformatics, and also 3 electives. So 3 electives are only, let's say, 5% out of the whole study time, but it's typical for any kind of bachelor studies because usually it's first in the master study where students have majority of lectures as being elective. So there they can more design their profile and really tailor it to their own needs and interests. So one important thing which I would also like to mention is a huge percentage of the practicals in this kind of curriculum. So every semester students will have either 1 or 2 practical courses. So once one is finished, the second one starts, and this is really great because I mean, it's also much more interesting than the theoretical lectures. But this is really where the students learn the most of the principles, of the methodologies, and so on. Just to give you an overview about what does it mean. So you can have different levels of like compulsory participation in kind of practicals or exercises. So We have lots of exercises. These are mostly for mathematics, physics, or some theoretical chemistry. Then you have practica. So that is really like a practical course where you work for a few hours per day. These are usually clustered along a few weeks or months and so on. Then we have seminars. These are usually more detailed. So the focus is very specialized, or then you can have combined lectures where also the presence is compulsory, and also a lot of emphasis is put on the teamwork, be it in the seminars for preparation of some kind of a presentation on given topic or in the practical. So students are encouraged to work in groups, to ask themselves, to discuss the problems, and most of the times they really figure out it on their own, or they can ask tutors because I mean, we know they're usually too shy to ask the lecturer first, but this is really important to train them to work in the team and cooperate on some kind of a common problem. So what each graduate of the Bachelor of Biological Chemistry will know afterwards: the most important fundamentals of mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology, or biochemistry, I would like to say. And the whole study is concepted in a research-oriented way to really give them the best overview of the methodology and the know-how in the most important techniques and methods in chemistry, in any kind of fields of the chemistry. So really going from the instrumental analysis, analytical chemistry, which is often then used in the quality control departments in the companies, to synthesis, so mainly organic synthesis, going forward then to the microbiology, genetics engineering, and so on. But last but not least, also soft skills are very important. So students also have a lot of opportunity to train themselves in the communication, to be able to work in interdisciplinary groups. So really a chemist talking to a biologist, they have to work on some common problem. They often speak a different language and they just don't know how to solve it. And these students are trained in that. So since the beginning of the study, of course, they also have an opportunity to present their research results, be it in the small group seminars or also at the conferences, usually in the form of the poster presentation. And all of them are then trained to problem solve any kind of a problem within chemistry or biochemistry. So what are the typical methodologies which students learn during this study? So of course, lab safety is a must, be it for the chemistry practical work or the biology. So this is run in all of the practicals which they go through: mathematics, basics or fundamentals in like differentiation, integration, statistics, some kind of Fourier transformation, and so on. Then again, basics of physics, which are needed for any kind of follow-up master study, which has some kind of chemistry in it. So thermodynamics, mechanics, quantum mechanics, which is then again needed for any kind of molecular dynamics simulations, which are then used in master and PhD studies and so on. Of course, analytical techniques. So all the types of electrophoresis, chromatography, starting with a very basic column chromatography, which is used in the chemical synthesis, and ending up with a mass spectrometry, for instance, or HPLC, and so on. But also, of course, PCR technique, patch clamp, sequencing of the proteins, and so on. There's also a big focal point is general structure analysis, starting with the very small molecules, where we use different types of spectroscopies like NMR, fluorescent microscopy, IR microscopy, Raman spectroscopy, and so on, going up to bigger, larger biomacromolecules or even organisms, for instance, with cryogenic electron microscopy or X-ray crystallography for, let's say, determination of the structures of proteins. And then synthesis or any kind of chemical work, or molecular biological work like synthesis of DNA, synthesis of small peptides, up to the production of recombinant proteins in living organisms, and so on. So what are the job opportunities for our students? I have to say that most of them continue in their studies further, but those who decide to join industry after finishing the bachelor in Linz is a great opportunity, because we all know this is a huge chemical industry center. And because you have already experienced working in the international environment, it is a huge advantage compared to other bachelor graduates in the chemistry, and the study being interdisciplinary, that is again giving you the plus point. So the main fields for job market are pharma industry, food industry, medicinal chemistry, biotechnological industry, and mainly students then end up in the R&D, so research and development, either of the products or optimization of the processes and so on. So with a bachelor, you can be a group leader, for instance, but you start at the lower positions. Of course, you can work yourself up afterwards, no matter what the degree is. But generally, it's mainly a lab work, I would say, rather than designing new processes and so on. And of course, most of the students then continue to the master study. Either they stay for the master of the biological chemistry, or they have found out they already found their profile, which is more specific, and then they continue for another master at different universities. And we are very happy to say that our graduates had absolutely no problem being accepted to all the universities across the world. So they can really choose where they go afterwards. And a few of the students also choose to go for different master programs, either at JKU or at the University of South Bohemia. So what are the most typical frequent questions which we get from the students? So are there any kind of scholarships? So there the general JKU scholarships for students for having good grades, for instance, or for the Upper Austrian students and so on. But all of the students are eligible to get an Erasmus scholarship for spending their second year in Budweis at the University of South Bohemia. So this scholarship covers basically all of the accommodation costs and also some of the living costs. So it's more than enough to use for living there. The accommodation in Budweis, you can either go to the university dormitories on the campus, which is very easy to get into. So mostly automatically, our students will be guaranteed a place in there, and they are also affordable. On the other side, you can also rent an apartment, share it with the other students, or go for the private dormitories, which are also located on the campus. They're a little bit more expensive, but then you might have a single room with better amenities and so on. So are there any kind of prerequisites which students need for going to Budweis for the second year? So there are only prerequisites for getting the Erasmus scholarship. So if you just follow the typical study plan and you are able to pass all the compulsory lectures, which are then used as prerequisites or entrance exams basically into the practical courses. And if you pass the practical courses, you have nothing to worry about. So you should have 40 ECTS. Typically students get 60 ECTS for the first year. So how can you reach the people involved in the organization of this kind of a study program? Currently, the main coordinator at the JKU site is Professor Mario Waser from the Institute of Organic Chemistry. In the future, it will be probably Professor Franz Mulder, who just started at the newly established Institute of Biochemistry. And of course, because the focus of this biochemical institute is much more close to our biological chemistry students, we will then transfer all the agenda related to there. This is also where I currently work as a postdoc. So if you have any kind of practical or student related questions, you can just contact me. Otherwise, all the common contact addresses for the JKU are all the same compared to the other study programs. And last but not least, we also have our own webpage and a Facebook group, which is run by the students, be it the active ones or the ones who already graduated. So this is great for newly starting students or incoming, where they can really ask questions, no strings attached, and so on. So with this, I would like to thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please go ahead. I think we have still some more time.
Yes, I had a question.
Yep.
And that is, if you're the type of student that needs to work in order to finance their studies, is there any type of accommodation that you would get for the semesters that you're studying in Czechia?
That you would work also in there, or how do you mean it?
That I would have to work in order to be able to study. So if I'm spending 2 semesters abroad, I would also have to continue working. Is there any person that I could approach about this?
Yeah, you could ask the coordinator for the international students in Budweis. So if you just write me an email, then I can give you the contact address, or you could also find it like the coordinator for Erasmus students at the the University of South Bohemia as well. So I don't know the name by heart right now, so they could help you. But generally also, you would get the scholarship to cover really all of the expenses for living in there. So that's also an advantage. So you wouldn't need to work just in order to support yourself during the second year, I would say.
Oh, the reason why I would have to is because this would be my second bachelor's.
Okay, like additional, yeah, I see.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thanks for the presentation. So I have a clarification question. Did I understand correctly that I have to pass entrance exam in order to study, in order to start working in the laboratory?
Yeah, so with these entrance exams, so any kind of laboratory uses accompanying a lecture on the same topic which runs before. So the leaving examination in this kind of theoretical lecture is at the same time taken as an entrance exam into the practicals, which makes sense. It's also a safety reason. So for instance, if you fail the exam in the theory of organic chemistry, you are not allowed to start the organic chemistry practicals afterwards. You first need to have a positive grade before. But that's common for all the other practicals and all the other programs as well. And usually always find these kinds of subjects which are needed to pass before you go for the practicals at the beginning of the semester. So you will know exactly on which ones to focus.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I would like to ask, when is the exact due date for the application? Because I feel like there were different dates in the system and on the web page, so I'm kind of confused.
From the jku side?
Yes.
Because that's also the thing, students can basically apply from both universities and they have different deadlines. So then they are taken as a Czech student going to Linz or Austrian students going to Czech. So for jku, I'm not sure what is the deadline right now. It's usually April, May, if I'm not mistaken, for the next winter semester. But there are also some kind of late registrations if you have some valid reason and so on. So that should be as well possible. But this all goes through the admission department. So they are the ones who decide who gets admitted and when. And especially when you're applying from abroad, the earlier you make it, the better, because we have experience, especially with like the visa issues and so on, taking really months before the students are able to come to Linz. We have also the beginning of the winter semester in the first year, we have kind of a period of first 1 month, 1.5 months for those people to catch up, because even if they came a little bit later, not on the 1st of October, but let's say at the beginning of November, it is still fine for them to catch up. So all the important practical courses and so on start a little bit later because of that.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, yeah,
Hello.
I have a question also pertaining to the admission date. So my daughter is studying in an international school here in Austria.
Yeah.
She will be doing her IB program, IB diploma, and getting only a result later in June or July, I guess. So
yeah, but I think then she will be handled as an Austrian student if she's studying in Austria. That's the same for all the other students. They also need their school living certificate, right, before they continue to university. So that should be fine. But if you contact the admission office right away, already now asking, they would know about her case, so she can, for instance, start her application and just fill in then the missing documents later. But they would already start, you know, her file and so on, and then just issue the admission letter a little bit later.
Okay, that means all the submission can be done now, and just the final
the registration
ID result can.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
One more thing is also, because we are having this red card. So he haven't reached 5 years yet. So does this mean still treated as so she'll be reaching 4 years when comes this December? So I don't know, the fees will be considered also international fees or the local fees?
No, I mean, if she has studied in Austria under high school before, that should be a normal Austrian fee. So basically for the standard study time, just the EH fee, which is roughly 20 euros per semester.
Okay.
It should be, but I mean, yeah, I'm not the one to decide, of course, but from my understanding, it should be handled like this, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The fees are also for EU students, right?
Well, for EU students, no. I mean, the fees are only if you then have a longer study time than the typical one. But I have to check the exact list of the countries, because this one gets updated quite often. If you just go on the jku webpage, and the tuition fees, there is an exemptions from the fee and list of countries which students need to pay the fee and so on. So for instance, I know that the students who are coming from the Czech Republic to study this kind of program, they are exempt from the tuition fee. And vice versa, Austrian students are exempt from the tuition fee in České Budějovice. But I'm sorry, I don't know exactly how the other countries are now handled. Yeah,
okay, I will check it. Thank you.
Welcome. So if there are no more questions, I think we should close the session, because in 2 minutes another presentation will start for the different programs. So I would like to thank you very much for joining me and for your attention. And then I wish you a good day.